and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founding minister and spiritual director. You are invited to learn more about this new teaching center by following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Subscribe, join, follow, and spread the news with others who may be interested in the work we are going to do in the world. Namaste and blessings. Time for service.
Hello. Today, after our Sunday message, join us once again. Today, February 26th. Join us after the talk, immediately after. Soon as I close out in prayer, join us over in Zoom for our after, whatever it is, after service gathering, our fellowship, our opportunity to come together. Like last week, we had some amazing conversations, some new folks met some folks, and we got together and did what we do. So feel free to join us. Now, if you don't already have the Zoom link because you didn't request it, then make sure you send an email to spirituallyintegratederts@gmail.com so that I or Tracy can send you the appropriate Zoom link so you can join us. We will also be gathering next Sunday, March 5th. Be sure to join in. Now, you ready? Because today we are talking about living curiosity out loud. We are these magnificent and powerful and creative expressions of the divine. And because we are that, we are called, we are invited to live a life that is filled up and overflowing with all of the goodness of all of creation, all that is God. Now, curiosity doesn't have to, but curiosity can pull us in the direction of what it means to uncover this good, what it means to uncover, to discover who and what we truly are, which gives us the opportunity to move into knowing and acting based upon the truth of our being, based upon the truth of who and what we are and what we can do, and thereby living this truth actively in an engaged manner. And as it says, living that truth voraciously and audaciously. Breathe. Because that's what it's all about. Now, Dr. Holmes says, we are at liberty to choose what manner of life we shall live. Now, let's pause for a second so that we don't simply malpractice or bypass, because there are some who don't have the full liberty to choose what manner of life they are going to live. For example, redlining did not afford those people in those areas the opportunity to live the life that they would desire to live because the structures and systems denied them that opportunity. However, what they can choose is how they move through. Dr. King didn't simply accept the system. Malcolm X didn't simply accept the system. Gandhi didn't simply accept the system. They changed within themselves and thereby showed up in the world to change the external systems. So we are at liberty to choose what manner of life we shall live. We should feel that in this choice, we are backed by all the will or all the purpose and all the law of the universe. In other words, the moment we choose, whatever it is we are choosing, all of creation has us. Now, why would this be? Because it is us. So the moment the law says yes, all of creation is moving to support that. So the question is, if you have this liberty to choose what manner of life you are going to live, what are you choosing? Are you curious to know how to end systems of oppression, sexism, racism, homophobia? Are you curious to know how to end systems where people are in poverty and hungry and scared, naked, and afraid? Are you curious enough? Not just curious enough to find the right parking space, curious enough to build your spiritual center so it has 1,000 members. Are you curious enough how to develop your spiritual practice, your spiritual application so powerfully that it affects all of creation? Because all of creation is in your choice. So, this entire month, these have been the themes. What lies beneath the surface? Inquiring minds want to know. The world is an oyster. I got ready to do that tongue twister thing. And living curiosity out loud. Now, one thing, because I don't know if you know it, but I changed the second week because it was supposed to be inquiring minds want to flow. And I was like, yeah, but no, I want us to know. I want inquiring minds to know so that we can flow. Remember the quote from several weeks ago regarding knowing is not enough, we must act. Being willing is not enough, we must do. So our inquiring minds want to know in order to flow, in order to act. Now, beyond this, what does any of this have to do with us? Well, let's break it down. When we are curious to know what lies beneath the surface, we discover the truth of our being. And we continue to ask pertinent questions because inquiring minds want to know in order to flow. We become aware that the world is an oyster. In other words, it is a place where we get to create magic and beauty, but only if we are living curiosity out loud. Are we? Breathe, because that's our invitation. Now, I'm sure you've all, ROLF or LOL. We pretty much all of us know what this means at this point, right? We know LOL is laughing out loud, but it's also living out loud. It's also loving out loud. And as I said today, we're talking about living curiosity out loud. And what do all four of these have in common? Out loud. Now, often we think of loud as being volume, turning the volume up, and it's loud. And we may think of loud as in, oh my goodness, what is that jacket that is so loud? We may think of, the gregariousness of someone's attire or their manner of showing up, and they're just so loud. But what does it mean to be loud? Right? What does it even mean? Loud in terms of volume and intensity, right? That we pretty much have. Cool. So then what is it to be out loud? Similar. And the dictionary definition said loud enough to be heard, but in order to be mindful of our deaf family members and friends as well, we know it also means to be large enough that it can be seen, right? Because if I sign over here small, you can't see this. So if I'm going to sign, quote unquote, out loud, then it means I am signing large enough that it can be seen by all. Okay? But out loud is also something that is clear, something that is distinct, something that is resonant. Okay? So if we're living out loud, are we living in a manner that is clear? Are we living in a manner that is perceptible, meaning someone watches you? Are they able to perceive, based upon how you are living, how you are showing up, what your faith is? In other words, what you strongly believe. Are they able to see by your actions who you are, what you believe, what you trust, what you know? Are they able to? Or are we keeping all of that stuff inside and it's like a secret? Now, there's another loud, out loud, and aloud, right? Like you must speak aloud. Okay, well, what is that? Aloud. very similar. It means speaking with a voice or signing with one's hands in a way that can be clearly seen, clearly heard, clearly understood. Because, right, like if I'm whispering, you don't really understand what I'm saying. I need to speak aloud. I need to, once again, be clear, be audible, be visible, be plain, be blatant, right? Are we living in such a manner that this is what we are doing? Or once again, are we still the best kept secret? Are we living a faith, a tradition, a system of philosophy, a whatever words you use to refer to religious science, science of mind, and spirit, CSL? Is it still the best kept secret? Are we living in a way that demonstrates we believe it is the best kept secret and should be the best kept secret? Or are we living science of mind and spirit aloud? Is it seen and heard and smelled in the manner in which we show up in the world? Woodrow Wilson says, "You are here in order to enable the world to live more amply." You say, what? Woody, what you say? What? I'm here to do what? You are here in order to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You are here to enrich the world. You are here to enrich the world. Are you curious to know how? Are you willing to discover that, to embody that, and then to live it out loud? Because I can guarantee you, there are some of us that this right here terrifies us. Just the idea of the responsibility, the call to action, just that. Ooh, swah. I'd rather just hide. I'd rather just hide because nobody comes to find me. But the moment you live out loud, everyone's looking for you. The moment you help people to enrich their lives, people come looking for you. People want to hear from you. People want to see you. They want to read your book, attend your workshop. They want to be near you because simply by being near you and touching the hem of your garment, they feel enlivened. They feel the quickening of spirit just by being in your presence. Are you willing to rise to that level of power and presence? That's the question, because that's what you're here to do. You are here to enrich the world. Nelson Mandela shares with us, there is no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. How many of us, not necessarily us here, but we know folks, we've heard of folks who settle. They settle for less rather than now pause, because yes, we are not saying that everyone needs to be a Kardashian. We are not saying that everyone needs to have the bank account of Oprah or the success of the Rolling Stones or whatever that is. We are not saying that. What we are saying is same thing Dr. King said. If you are a person who sweeps the streets, then be the best street sweeper you can be. Sweep streets the way Michelangelo painted. That's what it means. If you are capable of living your best life, no matter what it is you are doing, live your best life. Do not play small. Do not allow yourself to be confined by the box of culture and society. In one of the daily calls last week, I shared this idea from Walt Disney that he said, box, what box? When asked, one of his nephews was asked the question, in this realm of think outside of the box, what would Walt Disney say? And the nephew said, Uncle Walt would say, box, what box? Because the moment you say, think outside of the box, you have allowed yourself to believe in the box. Boxes are for rooms. Boxes are for cereal and packaging. Boxes are not for people or consciousness. There is no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for the box of the collective consciousness that wants you to play small. You are capable of so much more than you can even imagine. It is time for us to live into that. Breathe. Many of us choose to allow ourselves to play small. And then there are many who don't even realize that they are playing small because they have been conditioned by the confines of the collective consciousness. So I don't even know, right? Like let's think back. Several generations into slavery, slavery is all I've known. Slavery is all my parents have known, their parents and their parents and their parents. It's all we've known. But prior to that, their parents knew what freedom was. But several generations hence, I don't know what that even means. I have no idea. So there are many who don't even know that they are enslaved by the collective. They don't even know that they are victims of the collective consciousness of lack, scarcity, fear, and dread. They have no idea. And there are some of us who do know and still settle and accept it. We go by this confined area as if this is the only area we get to use as our playground. Why should we settle for this as our playground when this is our playground? We get to play throughout the expansiveness of all of creation, this entire planet. We get to enjoy and play. And yet, because of the collective, because of the confines, we are destroying the playground. We are destroying the temple. We are destroying the body temple because we have bought into, rather than being curious how to set ourselves free, rather than being curious how to live our best lives, rather than being curious, what does this teaching even mean now? Once again, one of the earlier messages that I did this week was about the idea of M. Scott Peck said, this spiritual journey, this journey of spirituality is about spiritual growth. And we do this through engaging in lifelong learning. And I said that there are many of us who still have a 5-year-old concept of God. In the same way that I said, how many of us still wear the t-shirts or the jeans or the pajamas that we wore when we were 5 years old? Very few of us, if any. We have outgrown them and they no longer serve their purpose. Well, what about the 5-year-old concept of God? What about the 7-year-old's concept of the universe? What about the 10-year-old's concept of the expansiveness of all that we get to play? What about that? When do we choose to be curious enough to step into a greater, larger expansiveness of consciousness rather than simply read a quote, take it in, I like that, and believe it, but really deconstruct it, do an exegesis of it, and go through it and say, what do I believe? Why do I choose to believe this? How does it affect my life? And what is showing up in my life as a result? Otherwise, we are doing the lazy person's form of science of mind and spirit. The lazy man's or the lazy person's concept of religious science, where we simply, years ago, there was a Dunkin' Donuts commercial where the guy would gotta make the donuts. And it was just same old, same old, same old, same old. But like the NBC commercial says, the more you know, the greater your opportunity to choose. And by having greater expansiveness of curiosity. Are you curious of what the 21st century version of science of mind and spirit looks like in your life, in our movement? Are you curious enough to be the harbinger of, the ambassador of, the creative of that next level of new thought? Are you? Or are you okay with settling? It boils down, you may remember this slide from last week. It all boils down to the fact that we must never allow ourselves to become satisfied and settle with unattained goals, unattained vision, unattained creation. we must always maintain a kind of divine discontent. Now, I reiterate this because this is precisely what Dr. Holmes is talking about when he says the latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth. That's divine discontent. Now, this is a small excerpt. Let's see the whole phrase. There is an irresistible, universal, and divine urge within us to be happy, to be healthy, to be whole, and to express the fullness of life. An irresistible, universal, and divine urge, divine discontent. This latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth, our evolution. It is back of every invention. It proclaims itself through every creative endeavor. It has produced sages and gurus and saints and saviors, and will, when permitted, when embodied, create a new world in which war, poverty, sickness, famine, racism, sexism, homophobia, gun violence, etc., have all disappeared. Now, what do we do with that? If we say we believe this, are we embodying it? Individually, collectively? Because if we're not embodying it, then this is simply a quote, simply words on a page that we read and we like. They make us feel good. But we're not discontent enough. As Dr. King said, what we have chosen to do is settle. Well, there's always been war, there's always going to be war. Poverty, the poor you will have with you always. Sickness, there's always going to be sick people. Famine, can't feed everybody. There's always going to be disease, etc., etc. Have we settled? Because if we have, then we should stop saying something about creating a world that works for all. But if we are truly curious of what it means to live into this, to eradicate this and live into this, then we must be willing to live our curiosity out loud, to live our teaching out loud, to forever continue to question, to be curious, to shift, to grow, to evolve, to learn, and do it again and again and again. Breathe. Because what we are talking about is this idea of receptivity. It just said to what degree it is permitted, to what degree we accept it, to what degree are we receptive of it. Now, receptivity means a variety of things. Specifically today, I want to talk about it being the openness and our ability of responsiveness, or how we respond. We say we are open at the top. So how do we use our teaching to respond to the various things such as war? Do we just pray? Not that prayer is not good, because clearly it is. We know this. Prayer works. But the question is, do we pray, and move our feet? Is our response solely to pray, or to do the second half of that equation, treat and move our feet? Well, then I'm curious to know, what is the and move our feet? What does that look like? What does that mean? How is that changing things for people? Are we receptive to the full power that is available to us? Dr. Holmes says the universe can only give to us what we take. Now, immediately, Reverend Ray's remix, because this idea of taking is straight based on colonization. I'm going to take rather than, and we are taking rather than. So I don't want us to take. The universe can only give us what we receive, what we accept. And since our receptivity, our receiving, is a thing of consciousness, the universe can only give us what we are aware of, what we have been curious enough to uncover, discover. Are we receptive enough? Are we willing to receive? Breathe. Are you willing to receive the truth of your being, of how powerful you are, and then to live that out loud? Because we can only show up to the expansiveness that we have received. And part of this is based upon what we are aware of. How aware are you of your full power? Not even your full power. Let's go with a fraction of. Are you aware of your ability to love? Are you aware of your ability to be the ambassador of love? Are you willing? Are you able to understand and be aware of how you affect the lives of those around you, your family, your friends, your community, your neighbors, that you impact them? Are you aware of that? Pause. Sit with that for a moment. Because the more we understand our individual power, the more we receive power, the more we accept the power that is the divine. And I'm not talking about power based upon the collective consciousness idea of power. I'm talking about true power. I'm talking about God power, universe power, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature. I'm talking about that. Are we willing to accept it, to receive it, and then live it out loud? Once again, being receptive, that level of receptivity is what it means to, with an open heart and an open mind, I receive, I accept all the good that the universe is and all the good that the universe has available to itself as me. Not just how much the universe has available, but how much, because there's only the universe, there's only God, how much God has available to itself, which clearly is everything, it's all of it. But if I'm an incarnation of it, then how much of that good that the universe has, that God has for itself, am I willing to embody, to receive, to accept, to be open at the top, to be open at the bottom, to pull in and express out loud with an open heart and an open mind? Do I receive? Do I accept? Do I allow? Breathe. Let's do a little bit of calculus. Engineer plus imagination equals? Exactly. From the land of Walt Disney, we get Imagineering. The engineering of the imagination. Now, why is this even important? Well, first, simply allow yourself to be creative and have fun. That's one. Be creative and have fun. Because part of living out loud, that is the theme for the year. Living out loud is being able to have fun, being able to enjoy this thing called life. But even beyond this, I want us to understand the importance of imagination, because imagination simply isn't the thing that you do when you're daydreaming or the thing that children do. John O'Donohue says, when we bring in the notion of the imagination, we begin to discover a whole new sense of God. The notion of the divine imagination brings out the creativity of God. And creativity is the supreme passion of God. Be creative and have fun. Creativity is the supreme passion of God. Imagination brings out this creative. Be creative and have fun. Breathe. Dr. Holmes says of imagination, if we were to further inquire, curiosity, of our imagination, what the ultimate purpose of evolution is, the most logical answer that it could give would be that the purpose of life is to produce beings, to produce life that can consciously cooperate with it. Breathe. That through such cooperation, collaboration, and communication with itself, the evolving principle may more completely express itself, to live itself out loud. Breathe. This idea of evolution is, how do we participate with the divine? For example, if I want to pick up a coffee cup that's sitting right in front of me, my arms have to participate with the will, the desire to pick up the coffee cup. But my arm's not moving. Oh, it's because I don't want to pick up the coffee cup. You're not even supposed to have a mind of your own, but I do. But you're not supposed to. You're supposed to cooperate and collaborate and whatnot. Like you're me. You're not separate from me. You are what I am. So do what, yes, and but. No. No. You are what I am, so you do. There is only that which is God. We are not separate from it. And though we have the opportunity to engage in free will, we cannot separate ourselves from the law. We cannot separate ourselves from what God is. We can act in a variety of ways that may be rooted in ignorance and selfishness and all. Yes. And yet we are still the divine. We are still God. We are still operating based upon the law. So why not be curious enough to learn how to consciously cooperate with it, to really engage the full power that is available to us? And as Neville Goddard says, as we discover curiosity, the secret of imagining, we are discovering the secret of God. Say, what? As we discover the secret of imagining, we are discovering the secret of God. So God and imagination, this thing we call our human imagination, are synonymous terms. They are interchangeable. In the same way that Emma Curtis Hopkins said, my good is my God, Neville Goddard is saying imagination and God. Interchangeable. So how are you using your imagination? Are you curious enough to start using your imagination to create a world that works for all? To create a life that works for you? Are you curious enough to use the creative power, imagination, God, source, the universe, to do what that slide several slides ago referred to, eradicating famine and war and all of that stuff? Are you curious enough to learn how to engage your power as God for that purpose? Breathe. This week's practice, this week's discussion questions for the Thursday night discussion group, or your own spiritual practice, your own journaling. Breathe. Number one, what does it mean that you are an expression of the divine? What does that mean to you? How do you verbalize that? Do you believe that who you are and how you live life really matters? Do you believe that it matters? Do you believe that you matter? That your life matters, has influence and impact? What evidence do you have? What does living life in joy as a calling mean to you? And how do you answer the call? Breathe. How do you steward your imagination? As an Imagineer, what are you creating? Breathe. And lastly, in what ways are you still playing small, settling for less? Breathe. Our affirmation, our declaration this week, I will say it first. And if you feel in alignment with it, say it with me on our second go round. Today and every day, I live life to the fullest, overflowing, drinking from my saucer because my cup runneth over. Together, today and every day, I live life to the fullest. Breathe. Breathe as we prepare to close out in prayer. Simply anchoring into this breath, anchoring into this moment, recognizing the isness, the allness of Source, Spirit, God, the universe itself, present right here, because there is nowhere that any of us could ever go where God is not. There is nothing that we could do that is somehow separating us from the divine power of God incarnating as us. That means everything we do, the fullness of creation is present. That when we speak our word, it is the word of God. That when we engage in service, when we paint, when we draw, when we write, no matter what we do, when we sweep, when we mop, when we do laundry, no matter what it is the universe engaging in that activity. And how amazing is it to know that there is nothing we could ever do that is somehow void of the power and the presence of love itself, void of the power and the presence of creativity and creation itself. So I breathe this breath, recognizing that I am a divine metaphysical Imagineer, and that what is true of me is true for all of us, true for everyone watching now. That by the power of my imagination, the power of God, I create. I communicate with the universe. I engage in this divine process of self-talk. Because if there is only God, then when I speak, it's God speaking. And so when I pray right now, this act of prayer, it is God speaking, it is God praying. But if there's only God, then this is God talking to itself. And that this divine act of self-talk creates. This divine activity of God speaking in me, through me, and as me. And not just the words, but the manner in which I live is how the universe shows up and shows out loud, boldly, audaciously, powerfully, lovingly, compassionately, creatively. I simply stand in awe and marvel at the divine beauty, the divine magnificence of all of creation that is present right here, right now. These thoughts, these words, these emotions, and these conscious actions of what it means to and move my feet, of what it means to sow and reap, of what it means to bear good fruit, of what it means to show up as a 21st century New Thought Good Samaritan, shifting, changing, evolving consciousness. And to all of this and everything that we talked about today, the law says yes, as it can only say yes. And so it engages in this divine communication, collaboration, and cooperation, co-creation with itself. The law says yes, that means it's done. That means it's so. And so I stand back and marvel at the divine way that God, source, creation, the universe itself, in, through, and as me, in, through, and as you, in, through, and as all that is, do what it does beautifully, powerfully. And so it is. And so it is. Amen. Namaste, greetings and blessings, everyone. Have an amazing Sunday. Take care. See you. It is that time. See you over in Zoom. Much love and appreciation. Talk to you soon.